Now, can you tell us how prepared are farmers in the Omaheke and how prepared must they be for what is currently happening in the other SADC countries?
Yeah, sometimes when we are having problems, people are not taking it sometimes very serious about these diseases that are coming. But now, as we know that we are, all of us, living from livestock, we have to be prepared for these diseases. We want to avoid these diseases to come in Namibia. As we know that our farmers, mostly those who are farming in communal area, that are bordering with other countries like Botswana, like South Africa, where the disease is found, we have to be alert about that and then always follow the rules and regulations as prepared by the government.
Now, what specific traditional laws or community directives are being implemented to restrict the movement of animals or food products between homesteads?
Yeah, most of the time, in the past, we used to inject the cattle, and through that is when people also learned to avoid the diseases. But today it's difficult because we are farming without camps. It's a communal land, is an open area where the moving of livestock is just not prohibited. The people, livestock are moving from one side to another side. But on that way, it's sometimes very difficult, but at least we have to prepare. And we as traditional leaders, we are mostly speaking and talking to the people to look at what they can do so that we can prevent the disease or the diseases.
Now, how is the Office of the Chief coordinating with the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Land Reform to enforce veterinary checkpoints?
Yeah, sometimes they are coming to our areas and have meetings with communities to let them be aware of what is happening. But it's not always so, sometimes, not so many times that they are coming. But it is our request always that it is better that them must also come and learn our people so that they can be aware of what is happening.
What measures is the Traditional Authority proposing to assist farmers whose livelihoods are threatened by these new restrictions?
Mostly what we are doing, we are also telling them about the moving of the livestock. And even as we are having also for members that are coming from abroad, like from Botswana, when we are having funerals, then we also have to tell them so that they can be aware that we are having that problem of disease, and they have to follow the regulations between the two countries or three countries, if we can also include South Africa.
Should community members report suspected cases directly to their senior headmen, or is there an office dedicated within the Traditional Authority to deal with such a crisis?
Yeah, that is sometimes our request, what we are doing to our communities. But the problem is mostly, the young ones. Sometimes they are going over the border and steal livestock from the border and bring in. But in any case, if this is happening, we request always the community to come and report this to the police and the headman or the chief.
For statements regarding food, are there any specific instructions on the safety of consuming meat or grain from the affected regions?
We grew up the time when we were kids. We used to eat meat when the cattle have died of the disease, because that was our tradition, we eat. But today, we are always telling our kids that, okay, if the cattle dies of disease, then we must be aware of that can also affect the community of making use of that meat which is affected by the disease.
Now, looking forward, are there any workshops in place within the community that the Traditional Authority is planning, just to keep the community members educated and what is, on what they should do if they detect symptoms and what they should prevent, what, things that they should look out for?
Yeah, there are meetings always held in the communities to tell them, and sometimes we are also requesting the doctors, those who are dealing with livestock disease, to come and also tell our people about the problem of the disease or diseases.
Other than that, I think perhaps if you'd like to share something, or perhaps maybe encourage farmers generally in Namibia who are afraid of the news that is happening within the SADC region, to say, oh, we are afraid of this, and they don't know because they've never faced something like this. What do you have to tell them? That
is exactly what, when people are hearing of the disease, then they are sometimes getting afraid, thinking, we are going to fall in the same problem as what the other countries are in. But what we have to do, or what I'm doing now, is just to encourage them to say, okay, if we must not be so afraid about the disease, because we know we are aware of the disease, what we have to do is to follow the regulations and the restrictions that are put in place to avoid the disease.